Embiid have we seen? When did he look good this year?
It has not been the case. They are done. This season is over. There's no brotherly love for the Sixers.
He had a bad back, and instead of losing weight and trimming down, what did he do? He thought it was cute to be sitting on the table eating McDonald's, eating fast food.
The process is over for the Philadelphia 76ers, and instead of celebrating the fruits of their labor with a championship or even a team good enough to make the conference finals, all they got was an injury-prone superstar, a few of the worst draft busts in NBA history, and a washed-up Paul George. How did it get to this point? What went wrong? Can it be fixed? And more importantly, where did everything go wrong for Joel Embiid and Paul George? So before we get to the content, we started a baseball channel called Uni Diamond Talk. We're giving away 10 copies of MLB The Show 25 to a subscriber that turns on their notifications for that channel. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. We've been on an amazing streak on Prize Picks, making $400 off of our last 3 picks, which proves that my data analysis model works. Sign up for Prize Picks using my promo code microphone to get $50 when you make a play of $5, and follow my Instagram at TheFlightMike to see my plays. I also give away additional plays on patreon.com/microphone, and thank you Prize Picks for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Joel Embiid is a special player. We're talking about an MVP caliber, 7 foot, nearly 300-pound center capable of giving you 30 and 10 every single night. Actually, take that back. It's not every single night. That's because ever since he's come into the NBA, Joel Embiid has missed 50% of possible games in his career. You heard that right. The guy currently on a nearly $200 million contract hasn't even played half of the games he's been paid to play. But why?
Kansas Jayhawks center Joel Embiid out for the Big 12 tournament and possibly more, as I'm joined by
Joel Embiid. He will undergo an MRI on his left knee after injuring it in the fourth quarter of Tuesday night's 119-107 loss to the Golden State Warriors.
Sources tell me that the 76ers and Joel Embiid are now consulting with doctors and considering options such as surgery on his left knee.
If I show you every time Joel Embiid has gotten a serious knee, foot, or back injury, the video would easily be 2 hours long. The point I'm making is Joel Embiid gets injured each and every season. It's just a matter of whether or not it's serious enough for him to miss the playoffs. And now in 2025, it looks like he's in danger of missing the postseason, but more on that a little later. Joel Embiid had a major foot injury his rookie season that meant he couldn't play at all. He missed his entire second season after the injury didn't heal well as well. Everybody at this point thought that the Philadelphia 76ers drafted yet another draft bust in the form of Joel Embiid. I mean, not even the Philadelphia 76ers had faith in Joel Embiid recovering in time, as they selected Jahlil Okafor with the 3rd overall pick in the 2015 NBA draft. But Joel Embiid would eventually break out, but then the next year during his breakout rookie season, he had to get left knee surgery. Then he had an orbital fracture, and, well, you get my point. The guy just cannot stay healthy. But honestly, is it his fault? I mean, look at this clip from February of 2018. Joel Embiid went absolutely viral for this. He's eating a McDonald's cheeseburger before the game, which is kind of strange, don't you think? I mean, you're eating a burger 90 minutes before a game. You're not some everyday fan or a skinny guy. You're a 7 foot, 300-pound center. Now, I know Kobe Bryant is notorious for having a pre-game meal of pizza and grape soda, but respectfully, even that makes a little bit more sense than eating a McDonald's cheeseburger before a game. I mean, all that red meat sounds so heavy before a game, and Kobe Bryant never really had weight issues. A lot of people point to this as proof that Joel Embiid isn't conditioned enough or cares about his health and nutrition enough as the reason he can't stay healthy, which is kind of crazy considering the fact that the Dallas Mavericks gave up on Luka Doncic despite him being healthy for the first 5 years of his career before deciding, hey, you know what? This guy's 270 pounds. We don't care if he's made it to 5 All-NBA teams. Let's trade him to the Lakers for an injury-prone star, Max Christie, and a 2029 first-round pick. It's just crazy that the Sixers didn't give up on Embiid while the Mavericks did give up on Luka Doncic. And while you could say that's a rational argument, you can't blame the broken orbital bone on nutrition and conditioning. You can't blame his temporary case of Bell's palsy on nutrition and conditioning. It's honestly just the truth that sometimes a guy who's 7 foot, 300 pounds is going to have chronic knee and back injuries injuries. But I know what you're saying. It's the same thing as Tubby McFat. If you're just so big, you need to lose weight. And although I do agree with this to an extent, I also wonder if the reason Embiid doesn't do this is because he knows he won't be as dominant physically if he does lose weight. That's just some on the court news. What about off the court?
Way too much, for this city, and putting myself at risk, for people to be saying that. So I do think it's bullshit. Like that dude, he's not here. Marcus, whatever his name is. I've done way too much for this city to be treated like this. So
you might not remember, but at the beginning of the season, Joel Embiid got into it with a local reporter after he name-dropped Embiid's son and his late brother, which, to be fair to Embiid, I completely get. You can criticize the player all you want, there is absolutely zero need to get personal with him, but after the incident, it was reported that Joel Embiid punched the guy. Then a day later, apparently it was just a shove. I don't know, the entire reporting situation surrounding the incident was kind of ridiculous. But the reason I bring this up is because after Embiid was suspended to start the season, he missed one game, then another game, then another, and another, until Embiid finally made his season debut 9 games into the season. And for the lack of a better word, he was horrible. Embiid went 2 for 11, and honestly, that kind of encapsulates his season. He has career lows in nearly every counting stat. And to make things even worse, Paul George, the man they brought in to help Joel Embiid take the 76ers to the next level, the man that was supposed to be an upgrade over Tobias Harris, the man that was supposed to ensure that the Sixers get further in the playoffs than just the first round before getting knocked out by the Knicks like they did last year, has been unequivocally bad this season. I know he's also been injured, but come on, dude, you cannot be posting this many podcasts and photos and videos of yourself on vacation during the All-Star break, especially when your team that was expected to make a deep postseason run is on pace to miss the playoffs. So clearly the regular season is almost over. We know the trajectory of each and every NBA team. It's way too far gone to try to climb yourselves out of the cellar. And even if you were to try to do that, your best hope is a first round exit or a play-in spot, which is why this announcement from Paul George is just baffling.
Fellas, it's no secret. This season is up to this point, man. It hasn't been what we envisioned. I know my goal when I first signed with Philadelphia was to bring a championship to these amazing fans here. I still remain positive about that, and that is still the case and where I'm coming from. With that being said, though, I want to let the Podcast P family know that after today's episode with Dwight, I plan to take a break from the pod just to focus on getting my body right, getting mentally right, and, help this squad make a push towards our goal to finish the season out, give ourselves a chance to be in contentions to compete for a championship.
This is by far one of the craziest things I think I've ever seen. Like, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff this NBA season alone. I mean, primarily the Luka Doncic trade, but I think Paul George deciding to finally step up and try to get the Philadelphia 76ers into the playoffs at the end of the season, like quitting podcasting altogether when there's only 24 games left, when the best case scenario is potentially getting a 10th seed. This is without a doubt one of the most Paul George things I think I've ever seen. At this point, Sixers fans want you to continue podcasting and playing like garbage. I mean, you should be shut down for the rest of the season, for crying out loud. But this man decided to actually give maximum effort with 24 games left in the season, despite the Sixers being a 12th seed. And to be honest, I think the main reason he's doing this is because if the Sixers fall into the lottery, then there's a good chance they'll draft a player that could potentially replace Paul George. I mean, obviously everyone's dream is Cooper Flagg, but the number 2 overall pick in this year's NBA draft is Ace Bailey. When you go to NBADraft.net and click on Ace Bailey's name, literally the player comparison is Paul George. So I'm starting to think that maybe Paul George is fearing for his job security here, and that might be the reason he's deciding to quit podcasting for the rest of the season. But you should have done this in the beginning of the season, or like you could be a podcaster if your team is winning. But man, this is one of the most baffling things I think I've ever seen an NBA player do. Because at this point, Sixers fans, you want to tank so you could try to keep your pick from going to the OKC Thunder. As the season went on, Joel Embiid kept injuring his knee and was forced to miss chunks of games to the point where the 76ers had to intervene.
Team and Joel Embiid Embiid will have to have some conversations about health, because that has been the key word. I said that word yesterday. That has played such a big factor with the 76ers season, and just the unknowingness of whether he's going to play on any given night.
Now, this has to be some act of God or just karma, because a month later, it was announced that Joel Embiid will undergo an MRI and potentially miss the entire season. Keep in mind that up until February 25th, Embiid has played just 19 games this season. If Joel Embiid misses the rest of the season and you combine that with last season, then that would mean he would have played just 58 out of a potential 164 games. And that is horrible for a guy who's over 30 and owed nearly $70 million per year until 2029. So how did Embiid and the 76ers get to this point, and is there a way to fix it? Do you remember the process? That stupid phrase that Sam Hinkie coined back in the early 2010s? The phrase basically meant tank now and suffer, draft later, and this is how the Philadelphia 76ers acquired talent like Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, and of course Joel Embiid. This was supposed to usher in a new wave of 76ers dominance, but all we got out of it are blank happened before Joel Embiid played in the Eastern Conference Finals Drewski memes, which I do have to admit are pretty funny, but who do we have to blame? Well, let's listen to the arguments and come to a conclusion.
Ben Simmons wasted peak Embiid. Let's be very, very clear. I'm pointing fingers. The fall off from him, totally mental more so than anything else, is beyond shocking. And that was the time to maximize anything that Embiid was going to give. I don't know if Embiid will ever be healthy.
Now, I have to say that Stephen A. Smith makes an incredible point here. When Simmons was a Sixer, Embiid was playing the majority of his games and was consistently finishing on all NBA teams, and the team itself was finishing with its best records. While it's true that Embiid did win the MVP the season that Ben Simmons left, the team itself lost to the Boston Celtics in the second round. I mean, if Kawhi Leonard's legendary Game 7 game winner doesn't bounce in the right direction, we could very well be talking about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid in a completely different light. But here's the other argument.
Peak Embiid wasted peak Embiid.
Ooh.
Because he never took his diet and nutrition seriously, Stephen A. He limped into the NBA. Why did he fall to the peak that he fell to, Stephen A? He had a bad back.
Now, Shannon Sharp also has some convincing words here. Joel Embiid has had a history of injuries dating all the way back to his Kansas days, and the narrative around his health and conditioning has been with him his entire basketball career. There's a real argument to be made that he himself is to blame for his underwhelming career and lack of postseason success, but personally, I think it's a little bit of both. I think the surrounding cast around Joel Embiid hasn't been the best. You could argue his best co-star was Ben Simmons, who we all know isn't necessarily known for his work ethic, or you could argue that it was James Harden. But after getting bounced out of the second round not once but twice, we have evidence that still wasn't enough to help get Joel Embiid over the hump. But now that Embiid has Tyrese Maxey and the 76ers just handed Paul George an absurd contract, and the 76ers actually have some decent role players, he hasn't played more than 40 games in a season for 2 years straight. So the answer to the question of how did Embiid get here is a combination of both. His supporting cast hasn't been good enough, and Joel Embiid's health hasn't been good enough, and that may or may not be his fault. So where do the Sixers go from here, and how do they fix this? I know this may sound crazy, but there is a way to fix the 76ers, and it all hinges on one thing that we'll touch on in a second. But we have to set the stakes first. We need to be very realistic with where the 76ers are in terms of the salary cap. According to Spotrac, next season the 76ers will be paying Joel Embiid, Paul George, and Tyrese Maxey upwards of $144 million combined. That leaves very little money to do anything else. And although Jared McCain will be a nice addition coming back from injury, that won't be enough to make this team competitive. Plus, let's be so serious, Paul George has been absolutely terrible this season. I mean, I've been riding Paul George unders on Prize Picks all year long. If you want a guaranteed way to make money, just go to Paul George's statistics, select under on points, rebounds, and assists, combine them with another square, and you could easily triple your money. I give away my picks on Instagram at TheFlightMike, and when you use the promo code microphone, you'll get $50 when you make a play of $5 or more on Prize Picks. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. The max deal that Paul George was handed in the offseason looks like one of the worst contracts in team history. So what do?
Honest assessment of the situation. Their pick is top 6 protected, which means if the pick is 7 or higher, it goes to Oklahoma City. If it's 76 or lower, they keep it.
The first step is to tank, and I mean tank really badly. Paul George and Tyrese Maxey aren't going to lead you on a playoff run. Don't even bother trying. Just tank and try your hardest to get that top 6 pick in the lottery, and with that pick, you can begin to fix the 76ers. Maybe they want to keep the pick and add a young player to help them build the future with, or if they are truly committed to Joel Embiid, by that I mean for some reason they're confident in his health, they take that draft pick and attach it to Paul George to get his money off the books and use it elsewhere. But if you think about it, a high-end lottery pick could fix the 76ers. Let's say the 76ers win the lottery and they select Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg would be on a rookie scale contract for 4 seasons, meaning that he would not get a contract extension until Paul George and Joel Embiid's contract comes off of the books. Jared McCain would be up for a contract extension in 2028 as well. But in the meantime, Cooper Flagg could fit in seamlessly next to Joel Embiid. And maybe by then, Paul George and Embiid would be significantly healthier if they just shut them down for the remainder of the season. I mean, no one is going to look at the 76ers and think that they're trying to tank on purpose by shutting down their injured stars for the remainder of the season. Paul George has been on record multiple times saying he's been injured. Joel Embiid has been suffering injuries all season long, and there's just way too much ground to make up at this point to try to make it to the top 10 of the Eastern Conference to potentially compete for a championship. At the time that we're making this video, the 76ers are on an 8-game losing streak. If they could somehow get the 4th best lottery odds, they'll have a 12.5% chance at the number 1 overall pick. But even if they stand pat as is, they currently have a 9% chance at the number 1 overall pick. The rest of the plan hinges on Joel Embiid staying healthy, which if history tells us anything, I wouldn't be too confident in. Maybe Embiid at the age of 31 finally finds a way to get healthy and loses some weight and improves his conditioning. Maybe we finally see Embiid play 70 or more games in a season, which to be honest, I would love to see, because when he is healthy, he's one of the best players in the NBA. I mean, if Tubby was able to get to 70 games last year, I'm very confident that Joel Embiid would be able to do the same. But again, that's a big if. There's many different directions that the Philadelphia 76ers could go in during the season, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel for this team. They just have to play the rest of the season really smart and not fool themselves in regards to where they currently stand. This season was doomed from the start. From Paul George's regression and injury, to Joel Embiid consistently being injured, to Jared McCain getting injured, all of this is nudging the Sixers in one direction. Hopefully, they make the right decision. Let me know in the comment section down below if you're a Sixers fan, what do you think they should do? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.